The Oceangate fiasco has been all over the news this past week. It's been all over mainstream media. It's been all over social media. I doubt very highly that if you're listening to this, that I need to go into great detail in explaining what it was that happened. But for those of you who have perhaps been in a coma the past week, or who are watching this in the future, long after everyone's forgotten about, this particular tragedy because, umpteen more have happened since then and we have a short attention span. Let me just take a brief moment to give you the nuts and bolts of what went down. You have this company called Oceangate. Their CEO is someone who is obsessed with the Titanic. And in this, by the way, my understanding of this is very loose, but again, we don't need to get into great detail here. Bottom line is, the guy slaps together some, submarine with parts he ordered off of campingworld.com and Harbor Freight, operated from like a fucking PS3 controller, and charges $250,000 to go down to the bottom of the ocean and look at the Titanic through a peephole. And he found 4 or 5 guys that were willing to fucking sign up, and go down there with him. And it didn't end well for any of them, because this thing was a piece of shit and it imploded at the bottom of the ocean because it couldn't handle the pressure. And now there's, 5 people dead. And it's all anybody's been talking about this past week. And chances are, if you are on Facebook, Twitter, whatever social media platform you happen to peruse, the memes are unavoidable. They're everywhere. We're all having a good laugh at these guys. And I stop and I ask myself, why is that? I'd be lying if I said I didn't get a little bit of a laugh too at some of these memes. But we don't feel so bad, right? And I think the reason that we don't feel so bad is because the way they died was stupid, right? You fucking spent $250,000 to get into this little fucking piece of shit the size of a fucking Ford Escort that was thrown together with parts from fucking Home Depot. You thought that was a good idea to go down at the bottom of the ocean and that? Well, then you deserve to die. So ha ha ha, right? If it was some kind of mass shooting or something, and these 5 guys that are now dead, if they died in that situation, you wouldn't see the memes, because that's just a tragedy. They didn't ask for this. They didn't do anything wrong. They were just gunned down by some crazy motherfucker with a gun, and we'd be having the whole gun control debate instead of looking at, salty memes about you get what I'm saying. But it's a tragedy nonetheless, right? I mean, it's, these people are dead now. Yeah, they made a bad decision. Put yourself in the family's shoes. Would you be happy to see your fucking loved ones memed to death? Well, not memed to death. They were imploded at the bottom of the ocean to death, but you know what I mean. But I think, I'll get into why I think this all is in a second here, like why it's okay to laugh at these people. But I was having a conversation with my wife the other day, and she had commented, like, doesn't it seem like rich people are always putting themselves in these fucking positions, like these high risk positions, like where it's like you're fucking just tickling death's balls asking for it. Right? If you're not going to the bottom of the ocean in some shitty fucking seafaring minivan, then you're, trying to climb Mount Everest without having any fucking clue as to how much oxygen you need to bring with you. Or you're, roaming the fucking Alaskan wilderness trying to make friends with grizzly bears. Or you're somewhere in the fucking South Pacific trying to befriend cannibals or something, right? These are things that rich people do. And I think that's one of the reasons that we see these memes. Because it makes us feel good about ourselves. Because I think we all kind of tell ourselves like, I might be a fucking loser, but you know what? You're never going to catch me at the bottom of the ocean in that fucking thing. Right? I might be a fucking asshole, but you're never going to fucking see me gasping for breath at the top of Mount Everest because I didn't fucking plan things accordingly. You know, you're not going to see me trying to make friends with tigers or bears or whatever, right? These are things that rich people do. Us working class folks, poor people, whatever, you know, we have our own real problems to deal with before fucking putting ourselves in these crazy situations. So I think one thought is that these people are just so far removed from the real world, reality. I know a lot of us want to tell ourselves that, yeah, they might be rich, but they're fucking dumb. And that, you know, maybe that makes you feel better about yourself. You're not that fucking dumb, you know, to go down to the bottom of the ocean to see the Titanic in a ship that was a little sketchy. But unfortunately for folks like me and you, I don't think the truth is so much that we're smarter than them. Right? If you want to tell yourself that, if that makes you feel good, fine, go ahead, knock yourself out. You have to pardon me. You know, if it sounds like I'm taking a little too much time between sentences here, it's because I'm sipping on a high life and trying to smoke a cigarette and do this all at one time. I'm trying to multitask here, so you'll have to bear with me. But yeah, you're not smarter than them. I'm not smarter than them. The reason that you and I aren't going to die at the bottom of the ocean like that isn't because we're too fucking smart. It's because we don't have $250,000 to slap down on a fucking voyage like that. The reason that you're not going to fucking die on the top of Mount Everest is because you don't have fucking money or time to go to Mount Everest in the first place. The reason rich people tend to be in these situations is because they're the only ones that can fucking afford to be. Right? Timothy Treadwell, for instance. And I don't know his entire financial background. If you're not familiar with him, go Google Grizzly Man. You'll get, and I highly recommend the film. Okay? But I know that guy had money. He was on late night talk show. He was on David Letterman. He had a fucking career. Made a lot more money than I did. Let's just put it that way. He could afford to go, you know, once a year, twice a year, however much it was, and spend like 3 months hanging out with bears, right? Trying to become their friend. And then go back to his, you know, day job in LA somewhere for the rest of the year. And he did that shit for like 13 years. I can't just tell my boss I want 3 months off to go into the Alaskan wilderness and hang out with the local wildlife and then come back and expect to still have a job. You know, even if my boss gave me the okay, I got a wife and kids who depend on me, I can't do it. If I wanted to, I couldn't do it. So I think that's one of the key takeaways when it comes to that question. It's like, why do rich people find themselves in these positions exclusively almost? Well, it's because they're the only ones that can fucking afford to be. They're the only ones that can afford to do it. So, you know, you're not necessarily smarter than they are. You just can't afford to put yourself in their fucking position. And it reminds me of like that Bill Burr bit that he did a while back, talking about Tiger Woods and all these fucking guys dogging on him, shitting on him, patting themselves on the back because, oh, what a chauvinist, what a piece of shit. fucking womanizer cheating on his wife with all these women. That's disgusting. I would never. I've been married for 35 years. I would never do that. It's like, yeah, because you fucking can't. Right? Tiger Woods cheated on his blonde, beautiful wife with like 37 blonde, beautiful models because he's Tiger Woods and he can. He has the opportunity. You don't. In Bill Burr's bit, it was, what is it? You work at Home Depot in the lumber department, okay? That's not an entryway to pussy. You know, the whores ain't going to be beating down your door to get at you. But if you were in his shoes, maybe you'd be singing a different tune, right? And I think that's more or less the same here. It's like easy for us to feel good about ourselves and laugh at these people who died at the bottom of the ocean because they spent $250,000 to go down in the bottom of the ocean in a death trap. But if you had that kind of money to blow out your ass, let me ask you something. When Apple or Google or Microsoft or whatever has you read their terms and conditions to give the okay to let Snapchat get access to your fucking microphone or whatever it is, do you actually read that? Do you actually go through the terms and conditions? Or do you just kind of, fuck it, scroll to the bottom and hit okay? Right? So you're really going to blame these 4 or 5 guys for not really understanding how dangerous this really was? You know? I mean, the guy that's the CEO of Oceangate, he's a CEO for a reason. He's probably cooked up a pretty good sales pitch. So, you know, maybe think about that before you start laughing at these guys. But another aspect to it is, you know, in terms of the question, why do we see so many rich people put themselves in these positions? It's because, you know, if you are rich or wealthy or well off, I don't mean to speak like every one of these guys is like Mark Zuckerberg, you know, Donald Trump, Elon Musk or something like that. I'm not saying they're billion, but, you know, when we talk about rich people, you know, anybody who's way upwards of 6 figures, right? If you have $250K to blow on a fucking trip, you're well off. And you don't get to that position in life without being willing to roll the dice every once in a while, right? You're not going to be a risk-averse type person and make that kind of money. It takes a certain type of individual to make that kind of living. And so it would stand to reason that if you're willing to take risks to achieve what you want out of life, then yeah, it makes sense. Maybe they did understand that, yeah, there's a bit of risk here, but you know what? It would be, you know, a check off the bucket list to see the Titanic in person, or to make it to the top of Mount Everest, or to be friends with, you know, Barney the grizzly bear, right? So I think that's another aspect that can't be ignored. And, but I do, you know, to kind of circle back, I think there is something to it. I think there is something to the idea that, you know, these motherfuckers are just so far removed from the real world that, you know, it does. It kind of, it makes you dumb or delusional. Again, going back to Timothy Treadwell, he was fucking delusional. You know, I don't want to, I mean, was he an idiot? I don't know. I mean, I'd be curious to give him an IQ test. I don't know if he was an idiot in that respect. I mean, the dude did make it as a lot longer than most of us would, okay? 13 some odd years in the Alaskan wilderness hanging out with these bears. He had to know what he was doing to some degree or another. Most of us would never be able to fucking hang like that. So you can call him an idiot if you want, but he made it further than most of us would. The vast majority. But it takes just one mistake when you're talking about dangerous predators like that. And, when you're that successful for that long, I think, yeah, you get removed from reality and maybe you start to feel a little bit invincible. And if, ask yourself this, if you had spent like 13 years hanging out with fucking grizzly bears and they kind of just put up with you, is it so crazy to imagine that you might start to think that, yeah, man, I have a special connection with these creatures? It's so it's a little more complicated than just this guy's a fucking idiot, right? Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, sometimes bears get really hungry and desperate, and one finally decided to make Mr. Treadwell his meal. Sometimes that fucking carbon fiber shell doesn't withstand however much pressure it is that gets put on it at the bottom of the ocean. Sometimes you get lost or disoriented at the top of Mount Everest and you run out of oxygen sooner than you think. It's one misstep, one miscalculation can cost you everything. And in our daily lives, one misstep leads to like a missed mortgage payment or, fuck, I got to fix the plumbing in my house, or, the kids are up too late and I got, it's all mundane shit with us. Most of us aren't in these positions. The closest we're ever going to get to the top of Mount Everest or to grizzly bears or to the bottom of the ocean is on fucking Planet Earth, narrated by David Attenborough. It's the closest you're ever going to get. I'm not saying that you're a loser. I'm the same way. It's the closest I'm ever going to get. But, yeah, I mean, and there are plenty of, to go off on a little bit of a tangent, because I keep harping on, this whole thing started with the Oceangate thing, and I've been, I think, talking about Timothy Treadwell more than anything, but staying on that guy for just a sec. You think about like a kid in some slum in India that gets eaten by a tiger or a leopard or something, right? And nobody's going to laugh at that. Werner Herzog's not going to make a fucking documentary out of it. It's tragic. It's sad. It's horrifying. Every bit as much as it is with Timothy Treadwell. The thing is, with that kid that got eaten by the tiger trying to fetch a bucket of water out of some dirty river, he wasn't trying to be friends with the fucking tiger. He was just trying to survive. Most people that are killed or eaten by bears throughout human history, it's not because they were trying to make friends with the bear. It's because most humans that have existed throughout history that have been killed by bears, it was while they were out venturing the woods trying to survive. But now, in 21st century America, we live in a much more comfortable environment. And we have people that are out there intentionally putting themselves in these situations, and then we make memes out of them and call them stupid. But I think that's just what happens when life gets too easy. You start to become delusional. And again, I guess I could segue into the other aspect as to why I think wealthy people, rich people put themselves in these crazy situations. Another thing is because as human beings, it's embedded in our DNA. It's something innate within us that we need something to conquer. And when life gets too easy, that desire to conquer something goes from, for instance, for me, the two things I want to conquer is I want to hit all my metrics at work and make my next inline promotion. That's the goal that I have set before myself currently. And then when I'm at home relaxing around the house, maybe I'm playing Summoner's War on my mobile phone and I want to get my fucking, Penguin Knight from 5 stars to 6 stars or something like that, right? Those are the goals that I have because I'm a fucking loser or I'm a normal person. If I can do these things, I'll feel like I've accomplished something. If I could get, 100 people to actually listen to this, that would be an accomplishment. But when you've already accomplished a fuckload, when you're, running a company and have employees and you're sitting pretty and you've got an au pair and, a butler and shit, now maybe life's a little too fucking easy and you're going to try to go up and hike up K2 or go pet a tiger in the wild or some crazy bullshit like that. I think that boredom or just life getting too easy, it can lead to boredom. It can lead to depression. I mean, just look at all the famous, rich people that have offed themselves, right? Kurt Cobain, Anthony Bourdain, Robin Williams, Chester Bennington. Go down the list. These are people that had more money than I would even know what the fuck to do with. Fame, respect, talent, intelligence, and they couldn't take it anymore. And I don't want to get into the whole thing of, and I know I mentioned Kurt Cobain and there's this conspiracy theory about Courtney and all that. You get what I mean. When life gets too easy, when life gets too good, things can go dark pretty fucking quickly. And I feel like I've kind of gone off on a tangent here, but And I have no real message here, right? I don't mean to shame anybody. If you're laughing about these guys, if you're responsible for some of the memes or you've laughed at some of the memes, I'm not trying to tell you you're a bad person, because I'd be lying if I said I didn't get a chuckle or two out of it myself, or if I said that I didn't understand it. I'd be lying if I said I didn't understand because that's the other thing. We have like an animosity toward rich people because another thing that's embedded in our DNA is envy. We're envious of those who have it better than us. We tend to think less of them. But I guess if I could offer some kind of moralistic fucking message or something, it would be to just, think about that we're all human beings and we're not so different. I guess that's the point I'm trying to make here. We're not so different. If you had $250,000 to blow out your ass and you thought it might be fun to go out for a couple hours and see the Titanic, you might be down there too. And then, you think about that 19-year-old that was on that trip with his dad. He was terrified. He had the instinct that, this is a dangerous thing. He didn't really want to do it, but he did it for his dad because it was Father's Day. And now 19 years old. And he's never going to see 20. So I'm not telling you don't laugh. I'm not telling you anything. I don't want to tell anybody how to live, but these are just things that have been on my mind the past few days in thinking about this. But I think I'm done with it tonight. I think I'm done thinking about it, done talking about it for now. So until the next one, leave the comments below and have a good night.